Hey Revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode with Rachel Clingman, who's a visual communication designer / artist. That's right, communication, not communications, as we learn in the episode. But before we get there, first up is I want to let everybody know I am on day 6. I'm 6 days in. Yes, 6 days in of this 10-day cleanse. So I'm doing a 10-day cleanse. It's Metagenics, I think they call it Clear Change Cleanse. And you know what? I'm not craving anything. So it's a kind of a diet thing where it kind of steps you down off all of your cravings, like nicotine. Not nicotine, I don't even smoke. Hold on a second. What am I saying? Like alcohol, caffeine, carbs. So you kind of slowly get those out of your diet, and it breaks those addictions, which they are kind of real addictions, you know. And so I'm in day 6, and so I don't have any addictions left. I'm not craving anything sweet or anything carb oriented really, or haven't been eating red meat or chicken. So I've just been eating fish, and it feels really good. Anyways, just want to let you people know that, and because I posted things something on the Facebook page about it, so figured I'd just give you an update on it. It's going good. The first few days were rough. The third day in, it was like massive caffeine-oriented headache when I was breaking through to the other side. But feeling great now, and you just wake up and you're kind of wide awake. So if people are losing sleep or always feeling tired and they're drinking a lot of coffee, one of my recommendations is stop drinking coffee, and you will have more energy. I know it's kind of antithetical, but give it a try sometime and just kind of let your body reset itself. I think it's good for you. Anyways, just want to let everybody know that. So that's what's been happening. Also, I was checking out the iTunes page of the podcast in iTunes, and I noticed that Sean from Northern Virginia left a 5-star review. So I wanted to give a shout out to Sean. So he says in his review, Jim actively listens, responds with his own insights, and consistently comes up with great questions that would be possible only with deep listening. So he got excited there. He put an exclamation point on listening. And then he says, this podcast will be huge for everyday entrepreneurs using technology in this fast-changing world. So, Sean, thanks so much for listening, and thanks so much for the review. It really does help people find the show and lets them know what you're getting out of it, and so to see if it's right for them to be listening to. And speaking of listening, let's get to this week's episode with Rachel Clingman, who just a few years ago was married, living in a different city, and working in a completely different career than she is now. She's got a great story of how she switched things around, went back to school, got retrained, she got divorced in the meantime, moved to a different city. She's got a lot going on, and now she's dove right into the modern day career of visual communication design, where she's working on user experience interfaces, I guess, on the web. So let's get to it.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit Jim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Hey everybody, hey, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 32 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with Rachel Clingman, who's sitting right across from me today, and we're talking visual communication design. So Rachel, welcome to the revolution.
Thanks.
Hey, well, thanks for taking your time to be here, and great that I get to see you in person because you're here locally in Cleveland. But my first question for you is, did I say visual communication design correctly? Or communications design? How does it go?
It's actually visual communication design. There is no S, so it's not plural.
Oh, okay. All right. So I want to hear more about this because, I think I might know what visual communication design is, but these days, who knows, right? Because things are changing so fast, and I think the expectations of the world of graphics these days, I think, is very fluid.
Right. So, visual communication design is under the umbrella of graphic design, or should I say visual communication design is over graphic design? Because there are a lot of components to it. Graphic design is primarily When you think of graphic design, it's pretty much just imagery, but visual communication design takes into account typography, so what kind of font you use.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot more research based. So there are principles that you would employ as far as how the brain and the eye see and perceive.
Oh, I see. So some psychology to it, or some...
Yeah, exactly.
Explain that a little bit more. How do you go about learning about that, or what do you mean by that exactly? 'Cause there's a lot to that to unravel, I think.
Basically, there are some pretty fundamental principles to visual communication design.
Okay.
And it's how we as humans see our world. And so...
What do you study to figure out what that means, or so you can design something properly? Like, what do you study to figure that out? What are your reference points?
Okay, well, psychology, basically. Yeah. So how the eye interacts with the brain and how that information gets passed on, and basically the acquisition of information from our environment.
I see.
So yeah, it's not like when you get a degree in visual communication design that you're actually like deep diving into psychology. It's more that there are these principles that are known, and you study those principles. And
I see. So, well, the reason I'm asking was because I know that you, when I first met you, I think you were still, or maybe just coming out of school. Maybe we could rewind a little bit and put this into context. So I've known Rachel a little bit, and it's been fun to get to know you the last, I don't know, year or so, let's say. I met her here at the Launch House, and so we're sitting at the Launch House today, recording this podcast, and it's a co-working space, which I've mentioned on the show before. So if you've been listening intently, everyone should know what the Launch House is. And if you're, in the CLE neighborhood, I'm usually here 2 or 3 days a week, so come and say hi. The reason I mentioned it was I know you were going back to school, or went back to school, to get this visual communications design degree, and I was curious about it because I know your background is not in art or not in psychology. It was in something else, and I'm kind of interested, and that's what got me interested in your story about, wait, you did what, and you were where when but like just really about what, 3 or 4 years ago, you would say? Maybe 4 or 5 by now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I graduated with my degree in visual communication design about 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago, yeah. But before that, you had like a totally different life, right?
Right. Before that, I went to college when I was 17, didn't know what I wanted to study really. So I studied what was interesting to me, and that was political science and economics.
I see.
Because there's still that aspect of human behavior, like in it. And I guess that's what interested me.
I see. Were your parents in those kind of industries, or had any relation to that stuff, or you just wanted to kind of go out on your own and it was just interests you had?
No, absolutely not. Like around the dinner table, we talked about politics all the time, and so that's where the political science came from. And
I see.
Then I figured to get a job, I'd probably have to study something like economics.
Okay, I gotcha.
So that's where that came from.
I see. And so when you got out of school, were you working in that industry?
Yeah, I worked for a really big bank.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You were doing... Tell me what you were doing again.
Oh, well, I started in college working part-time for a loan servicing. Mortgage loan servicing.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of worked my way up after I graduated college.
I see.
Yeah.
And so you're working for a bank, and was that finance, would you call that? What would you call that industry, or just the loan industry?
Financial services, I guess.
Financial services.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. And so what was that doing for you or doing to you? Since you left the industry now, so like obviously it wasn't speaking to your heart, I guess.
No, it wasn't at all. It was I always say it pretty much like ate my soul.
Oh.
So
oh, wow. I was making a leap of faith, but I guess I was right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And was there any particular reasons, or it just didn't jive with what you thought life was going to be about for you, or wanted life to be about for you?
Well, there are a couple of reasons, and I mean, it was really anxiety provoking for me.
Okay.
Telling people that, they needed to pay or lose their home, or, dealing with that kind of element.
The
and
personal relations part was tough.
Yeah. More just the you need to pay or we're going to foreclosure kind of part was anxiety provoking.
Right.
Not dealing with people. I'm fine
Right.
with people.
Right.
But and then working for a larger company, there's very little room for creativity in how you do things and problem solving.
I see.
And so if you saw a problem and you wanted to solve it, you kind of just had to deal with it. Like you weren't in the position to make those kinds of decisions or contribute in a way that was really that meaningful.
I see. Okay.
So I felt like I was just kind of producing widgets.
Right. Just a cog in the system and,
Right.
day in, day out. That's nice, but you weren't thinking like that you could do it for the next 40 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I did it for a while, but I found myself doing things like to make it more palatable for myself. So like I would devise trainings for like new hires.
Oh, really?
So like put together training
cool.
books.
Yeah.
And I would like make team mascots.
Make team mascots.
Yes.
What were the mascots for? Was it like a character or what?
Yeah, like
what are you
a
talking
character.
about?
Like so we would be divided into teams.
Okay.
And we would have little competitions between teams for productivity's sake. And
okay.
so I would like come up with team mascots and create the little characters out of like maybe like those little fuzzy balls and like googly eyes and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I found my
So you were going to Michael's a lot at this point in your life.
Yeah,
Okay,
or
gotcha.
Joanne Fabrics.
Joanne Fabrics.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. That's funny. And Michael's is what do you call those kind of stores? It's like a craft store or something like that.
Craft
Just
store.
for people that aren't familiar with the local
Yeah.
craft store here in Northeast Ohio. But cool. Well, that's fun. Well, that's interesting. So that's kind of maybe with some foreshadowing or something maybe about where you might end up eventually in a more creative, artistic, endeavor or field. But what was the last straw that kind of broke the camel's back there when you decided to leave?
Well, there was, I can't remember the name of the hurricane, but there was like a large hurricane that hit Florida.
Okay.
And I guess lots of people kind of had trouble paying their mortgage after that. And
I see.
the things we had to do to handle that were just, for me, not completely ethical, I guess.
I see. Okay.
Or
That's
fair.
interesting. So there was a reverberation from that hurricane within your industry.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
And it was kind of right before the housing bubble burst.
Okay.
So
Right.
there you could see just in the way we started handling people just kind of changed.
I see. I gotcha. Yeah. Maybe you saw the writing on the walls, like it's time to get out, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. So, all right. So you get out, and where'd you get this idea that you were going to go back to school, or like, rather than just getting another job, or did you get another job first? Like when you decided to leave that particular one?
No, actually, I started taking art classes at Columbus College of Art and Design, like continuing ed classes.
Oh,
So-
while you were still working?
No, I had
after
quit.
you just quit. You're like, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fortunately, I was married and my husband had a job, so
Oh, okay. So at that
yeah,
point, you're
so
like,
that worked out.
yeah, all right,
But
fair enough.
yeah. So I started taking these art courses, and my husband at the time was a computer programmer,
I see.
and
Okay.
in his work, I would see a lot of opportunities to make things look better
I see. Right.
visually, and so
Right.
that's kind of where the idea kind of got planted into my head at first to go back for visual communication design. And then I saw a TED Talk.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I cannot remember who it was, but it was a TED Talk about design for good.
Okay.
And it kind of inspired me.
Right. I kind of spoke to your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be a designer.
Cool.
So,
What was there any particular industry or theme to that talk, or it was just more of a general thing about how to use design in different ways?
I believe there were two architects, like a husband and a wife. And
Oh, okay.
they saw a problem in rural education, I guess. And I think it was like South Carolina they went to, and they kind of reformed high school education for this county. And
That's interesting.
yeah, Yeah, and they had some really good outcomes. They increased graduation rates and job placement and kind of brought the town alive again.
I see. Wow. So design in the larger sense, not just in the artistic sense or visual sense, but just the design of systems or processes to really get things moving in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Okay, cool. Well, that's interesting. So you see this talk and you're like, oh, that's cool. That's inspiring. That gives you like a sense of direction now.
Right.
How did you, settle on? I mean, to me, it's kind of a wild thing for me to think about, especially like the last couple of years of myself trying to dive into digital online stuff that involves, building websites and visual communications of that nature, like on social media and all those kind of things. And I'm not an artist at heart. I don't know if I could ever be an artist. I play music. Maybe that's my artistic side coming out. But visual art, I'm not. I can't draw very well. How did you know, or what did you think about going back to school for that type of stuff, knowing that it was this combination of art and real technology, which doesn't sound like was necessarily in your background, either of those?
Right.
Like, how did you do that? Like, what were you thinking?
What was I thinking? Well, I don't know. When the PC came out, I kind of fell in love with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like when I was a kid, yeah.
Oh,
so when we got
okay.
our first PC,
I did not know
was
this.
kind of enamored
Okay.
with it. And
I gotcha.
yeah, I like my parents couldn't get me offline. I was
I
just
see.
online all the time.
Oh, okay.
Loved it. So
Gotcha.
I guess a little bit of that came into play when I decided to go back for graphic design or visual communication design. And my overarching goal was really to get to work on interfaces and programs and stuff like that.
I see.
Yeah.
So you made it through. You get through school, and you get out of school. And what's the first thing you do? You got a job out of school, right? You started working for who?
Yeah, I started working for a really small firm in Columbus called Interactive Group.
Okay.
And they designed museum exhibits
I
and
see.
like different interactive learning experiences for museums and like visitor centers and stuff like that.
I see. Okay. And so what did you think? Where you're like, yeah, this is cool. This is what I was looking forward to doing. And
I didn't realize how monotonous it was at times, because what I really like...
Really? What was going on there?
Well, what I really love is coming up with the idea
I see. Okay.
and solving the problem. But then there are all these kind of really detail-oriented steps to get to like execute.
Right.
So when I started out, I wasn't the best executor, I guess, of my ideas.
Right.
But you learn that as you go.
Yeah. You have to learn the process. I mean, the process is important. I mean, I think the idea, as you get along through life, you realize the idea is not the important thing necessarily. Everybody's got ideas. Right. And, it's about really understanding your craft and developing those skills where you can process your ideas and really get them out there. Right. Cool. So how did you make it from there? Because I ran into you in Cleveland up here. So how did you make it up to Cleveland, or what was going on there? Or you just had enough of the monotonous part back then? I don't know.
No, actually, I got divorced. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but let's talk about
marriage
it.
ended. So I decided to move up to Cleveland and be closer to family.
Okay. I gotcha. Good. So, all right. So you come up here and I think when I first met you, you were kind of freelancing and teaching part-time. So explain how that works, because this is kind of, to me, this is so interesting that you can go from, I guess, maybe degrees within a traditional industry, go back to school and dive into this technology-based industry now, even though there's some art aspects, some psychology aspects to it. But now you can come up and live almost a completely different lifestyle, like freelancing and knocking around and teaching and then hanging out at the launch house. So how did that happen? How did you figure out how to get into that?
Well, I couldn't find a full-time job. So,
or you were just forced into it. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of forced into it, and then I got used to freelancing and the independence.
Yeah,
and
right.
freedom, and I liked it.
Right.
Yeah, and I got to work on a variety of things. So, and the variety was was good.
I see. And it's I guess the point being there that now the stuff that you're doing lends itself to those opportunities where, maybe like being an ad hoc, freelancing loan processor is probably, not
exactly.
Not,
you can't really contract that out.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's kind of the difference. But you took on different projects and you started working for Tri-C, I believe, right? Cuyahoga County Community College.
Right.
How did you get that gig? Because you're out of school and you're maybe because you have updated skills. They're really looking for this now because of this explosion of social media and graphics and content creation as people talk about it now.
Yeah. So I saw a posting online and I said, "Oh, well, that would be interesting to do."
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you weren't a teacher. You weren't a teacher by trade, right?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. But I think designing lends itself to education, just because you have to educate your clients how to make the right choices visually and why it makes sense to do things. So, yeah, it kind of just fit. And when I interviewed, like a lot of the student population at Tri-C, maybe they're going back to school.
I see.
And so I guess that I stood out to them because I had gone back to school and kind of changed paths, and I knew what it was like to be an adult learner.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that maybe gives you a certain advantage of being in that environment for sure. And the students probably looked up to you and thought, "Wow, if she can do it, I can do it." Those kind of things, right? You're a good example. I mean,
yeah, I guess
that's a powerful example. If I was going back to school, I'd be like, "Wait, you just went back to school and you had studied, economics? That's kind of a different thing to do." So cool. How was that experience of teaching there, and and how long did you do it? Because it was, how long were you there?
I taught for like 2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
Yeah.
Because when I first met you, and I was interested in hearing about what you were doing, and I realized, oh wait, she's teaching at Tri-C, so she must really know what she's doing, because not everybody can can get a grasp of all the information that they have and teach it to someone else. So that probably really prove to yourself, I guess, probably more so than other things, that you really could do this. And it piqued my interest because I know I'm going to need help, which I haven't circled back with you about, logo design and other things we talked about offline on here. But at some point, I'll probably reach out to you again in that regard. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing, and I'm still learning about the podcast and what I want to do with it. But
okay,
that was another reason to get to know you. But so you're teaching and you're freelancing. And last time we spoke, you told me that you had started working for this company in Chagrin Falls, which is locally on the east side of Cleveland here, but it was kind of remote and you were still freelancing with them at the time, right?
Right.
Is that right? So tell me what the nature is of that gig that you got.
Okay. Well, it's an online learning company. So they come up with content for different corporations and associations who want to have learning that lives out there on the web.
I see. So are you designing and what are you doing for them exactly?
So I design visual content.
Okay. For the courses they're developing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I ask, because that's interesting to, one of the techniques or one of the real value added things that people can do today as an entrepreneur, or if you're running your own coaching business or something like that, or definitely in the online world, is to offer a course.
Right.
Right. And it's very popular now, and there's probably 3 or 4 big platforms out there like Teacherly and .com and all these. There's a few other ones, I don't know all of them, as well as sort of like the Udemy.com, and there's all this sort of online education content that has developed. This whole sort of ecosphere is really kind of exploded.
Right.
How does the company that you're working for relate to that? Do they have their own platform, or is it is it just totally internal, like business to business, or just internal for their organization? Or
it's business to business.
Okay.
So we do everything from like internal HR training for large corporations to like an individual who maybe wants to go out and put out some knowledge and monetize it.
I see. Do they have people from their company that are going out and doing that, or you're talking about individuals?
Individuals
on the
would
street?
come to us. Yeah.
Oh, will come to you to do that. So like license or make a custom course for themselves.
Right.
Oh, I see. That's very interesting. Okay. Maybe I'll talk to you about that further offline.
Okay.
So that's another interesting conversation to have. So cool. So, all right. So you're doing that, and just recently, but right before we started talking tonight, you told me that this has somehow turned into a full-time gig. Is that right? Tell me what's going on now with it.
Yeah, they liked my work, so they gave me a full-time offer that I kind of couldn't refuse.
Even though it's taking away your freedom and your
and my
your
independence.
I see. I got you. But that was, I assume that was kind of the end goal of going back to school and getting into these different environments. That all of a sudden this has now come to fruition.
Right.
It's
It
worked
was.
out, right?
It kind of was. Freelancing was kind of something that just happened
Yeah.
out of the need to survive. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So, wow, that's great. I mean, that's a great story. And what are you thinking about now? I guess it hasn't been very long that you've been there full time, but has it widened your view in terms of, career choice or thinking about what's ahead, or you're just happy to be where you are right now and just are content to be learning, and what are you thinking about it?
I'm happy where I am, but also I went back to school again, so I'm going to Kent and getting my master's in user experience design.
Oh, okay. So what prompted that? You were just in school, well, maybe a few years removed.
A few years ago, yeah.
A few years removed in school, like teaching in school, but
yeah.
What motivated you to do that?
Well, when I was going to design school, we had these design research classes that I really enjoyed, and it kind of sparked an interest in me in user research.
I see.
And so it's kind of been in the back of my head. And then while I was working for Tri-C, they're just like, well, if you want to work full time, you're going to have to get your master's. And I didn't really want to get an MFA. So it happened I applied before I got hired on full time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're just continuing to do it, but you do really like you were telling me the sort of the research aspect of it. Is that what you're talking about?
The research and the analysis of user behavior.
So explain that a little bit, because I think this is like a big deal now. Like I know people that get degrees in user experience.
Right.
Like if you don't know what that is, explain that for people, because it's fairly new. And if you're not maybe of a certain age or in the college world these days, you're thinking like, I don't even never heard of that job function.
Right.
If you're not connected to an online techie company or something like that.
Right.
So what is it?
So user experience is an umbrella term that incorporates a couple of different job functions, but user experience relates to I'm trying not to use experience here. I'm trying to figure out a word to use besides experience.
Right.
But the experience you have using a program or an app or a website, it encompasses usability, the emotional response to it, a portion of it that it is visual, because, of course, people don't like to look at ugly stuff.
Right.
We're programmed that way.
Sure.
So...
Right. If it's too complex or too simple or whatever, you kind of need the right mix, the right balance, right colors, etc.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It takes into account everything as far as how we behave normally, like things we're kind of born with and things we've learned through our environment. And,
I see.
Kind of puts that into like an experience, whether it's online or in an app or in a program.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you delve into the more business focused application part of it, sort of like the customer journey part of it? Like if you think of a sales funnel or something like that, like people that would be at the top of the funnel where they're just poking around and not necessarily searching for anything in particular, and then how they kind of get qualified as they kind of go down the funnel when they show more interest. You get into those design aspects. Do you design differently for that?
Yeah, I think there's a metaphor there that you could apply.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as like a user journey. So how your customer or user of the program or app would go through the program and who like your user audience would be. So
I see.
you think about things like that.
I gotcha. And so when you do the research, what does that entail? Like if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I need to do a research project to figure out what my user interface needs to look like or should look like," how do you tackle that problem? Or are you learning about it now in school?
I'm learning about that now.
Okay. Because I don't know how to do that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I could guess. I guess I could, just think through the problem and figure some things out on my own, I would guess. But
Right. Well, I mean, it depends on kind of your development model, like how you would incorporate user research into the development of an app or software. But I mean,
I see. Okay.
yeah, it goes in stages. From the first part, you would be conceptual.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd want to figure out who your user base is, and go from there, and it'll end up in testing and iteration. So
I see.
There are lots of different components.
It sounds like did you learn a stage gate kind of development process in school, or is that kind of the background they teach you when you go through visual design? How to conceive something from the start all the way up through like production and release and all those kind of things?
Yeah, well, visual communication design, they really don't teach you about software development at all.
Oh, okay. I was just curious, or is that just more like on-the-job knowledge that you've got since you've been out there?
That's more on-the-job knowledge, and that's something we would delve into in my master's degree.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my interest is, of course, of my other gig, my other job is Jimium Group, and in my consulting world, I do project management, product development, advanced development. So I'm very schooled in that kind of stuff. But I was just curious, like where and when other people discover it and what they think about it, and
yeah.
Just because my clients I usually work with, I usually have to kind of make them unlearn what they've learned, or
right.
or kind of like reorient them and say like, show them maybe for the first time a nice, sort of organized stage gate process that they can follow, so everybody can be on the same page. So I think it's important. So
right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, as a visual designer, I think we're always kind of at the end of the process, and I want to be more at the beginning of the process.
Right.
And
so you're at the end of the process because you're not using a good process. That's my personal Jimium Group opinion. So if you saw my process, you wouldn't think that, because everybody starts at the beginning. Right. That's just a requirement to do anything, which I'll step off my soapbox here in a second, but okay. That's what I help companies with, and help people with their small businesses and stuff. You can't get to the end and then figure out what your costs are going to be, for example, or any element of the project. You really have to conceive it all at the beginning, and then the way I think about it is it sort of gets fuzzy, and you have sort of like things you have to kind of fill in, and the focus gets clearer and clearer as you go through the process. But all the elements are in the picture at the start. They're just not all in focus at the same time, and you kind of go through. Yeah, you can't leave anything out. That's not good.
Yeah. When I went back to school for visual communication design, like one of the things I really wanted to do was get involved in the software development process. And back then there really wasn't like a user experience design kind of position.
Oh,
it wasn't
okay.
popular back then.
Really? Okay.
It wasn't
it's
as
really
popular. Now it's like super popular
Yeah.
to have designers involved in the whole process.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's where my comment came from, that visual design is kind of at the end of the process,
Right.
the visual portion, but
Right. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Well, yeah, the software industry, obviously, is a younger industry overall. I
Right.
come from the, big industry like the automotive industry and those kind of things that have been around for 100 years. So they have great processes that they figured out over time. Like, this is how you need to run major projects with, hundreds of millions of dollars development, all that kind of stuff. So they have it tuned in very well. But it's funny when you get to different industries and, they're younger or whatever, or not
Right.
as experienced, and it's kind of wild how they think. But that's good. It leaves me opportunity to to help people. So
right, exactly.
yeah, that's cool. All right, so when are you going to be done with that degree, or you don't know how long it's going to take now that you've got this full-time gig going?
Hopefully 2 years.
Hopefully 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow, you can do a master's in 2 years while you're working. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's an accelerated program where like you take one class every 8 weeks.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, basically. I mean, I've pretty much told my family, like, don't expect me to contact you over the next 2 years. You're not going to hear from me except for on like Christmas and Easter. But yeah.
Yeah, you've got a lot on your plate.
I do. I do.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, hey, thanks for getting me up to speed with where you're at now. It's great to reconnect with you. We've got a few minutes left, but before you get out of here, I always got two questions that I like to ask people on the podcast these days. And one is, and I love hearing this answer from people that are kind of knee deep back in the technology, or you're just kind of experiencing all this online technology for your real avocation now recently. Is there something about today's technology that's kind of gives you some pause or angst, or that's really kind of really presenting a challenge to you, even though you like it and you went back to school and you're studying it and you feel like you're really up to speed now? What's out there that we don't know about? What's the blind spot, or what are you thinking?
Well, I would say the pervasiveness of technology. I kind of struggle with it sometimes. As far as, I'll be honest, my phone, really, I struggle with putting it down. And it's gotten to the point where I have to put it on night, and so I don't get notifications, and I have myself on a little schedule, when to check it. But I feel like technology right now, it's kind of really addicting, and there are some cultural implications for that. And I know I talked to a historian friend of mine, and she was like, well, back when they came out with newspapers, they thought it was the end of civilization because everyone on the trolley wasn't talking to each other. They were just reading their own individual paper. And so they felt like disconnected from each other and society because of that. And the same thing happened with radio and television. So I think it's just something we have to evolve past, basically, as a society. But yeah, that's a good bit of context to put it in, for sure. I mean, I think obviously when new technologies come along and new business models and all these things that grab your attention, definitely there's people out there that freak out, and the fear factor gets out there just because people want to maybe take advantage of it or make some business models that pop up around these things to take advantage of what's going on. But yeah, hopefully we will evolve beyond it. But I mean, that's part of me trying to figure out kind of today's digital landscape and how it's really affecting us, and finding the blind spots or pointing out the places that can really improve your life or allow you to live a different lifestyle. That's what I think is interesting about it. But yeah, it can be addicting, for sure. It can take a lot of time away. Like, one of the things I did was a few years ago was I started not liking my cable TV provider. So I got rid of my cable. My intention was, well, let me just get rid of it until I figure out my bill, and then I'll get it back or whatever. But it's been 3.5 years now. I don't have any cable anymore. No high-speed internet at home. I only have my phone. So now I'm on my phone a little bit more than probably I would be normally, just because I don't have cable. Yeah. And so I kind of have to watch myself too, but Yeah, I don't think I could ever get rid of my high-speed internet. That's just not a possibility in my life.
Right. Well, especially dealing with graphics, right? That wouldn't be good for you, but
download time would be obscene.
Right. Still waiting. Okay. All right. Well, my second question for you is, in regards to reinventing yourself, which you've had this pretty awesome reinvention the last 4-6 years, and you're still right in the middle of it, being back in school and taking this new full-time job. Is there one or two things out there that you like to rely on in terms of reinventing yourself as you go forward, or daily, or what can you share with the listeners that something that's helped you?
I think continuing to learn, always. I've always been an avid learner, and just keeping up with developing your skill set and staying educated, not necessarily in the school sense, but reading.
Right.
Yeah.
What about I'm so curious as to, like, I would be totally overwhelmed, like diving back into school and doing that, which you'd be overwhelmed anyways, but with the technology aspect to it. How do you keep your mind open, or how do you continue to think about, I'm going to take this challenge on? It's a challenge.
Yeah. A lot of focus, I think, because there's so many distracting things out there.
Yeah.
but really just being disciplined and being able to sit down and do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it like Nike.
I got you.
I really think that, you can do anything you set your mind to. It's just a matter of getting over the procrastination factor and
Right.
just getting it done.
Just getting it done.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. Well, Rachel, we got it done.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for taking your time. It really was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Before we get out of here, sorry, I know that you have a website, and I know that's not your main focus now is freelancing, but you have other projects that you're willing to take on. Did you want to hand out your handle or website if people want to get in touch with you?
Sure, RachelClingman.com.
RachelClingman.com.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes, and we'll be good to go.
All right, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of.